Hi everyone, it's Christopher here with the Southwest Shooters and Crackshots and Newton Abbott, and we have a special guest. Sir, please could you introduce yourself?
Hello Chris, I'm Tony Belas, I'm from Daystate, and we're here to talk about something new, are we not?
We are. So this video is going to be going live on the 12th of May, and this is for a very special event. This is for the release of, I'll let you say it, Tony, because I think it means more coming from you.
Okay, well, this is the new rifle from Daystate, the Daystate Alpha Wolf.
So in terms of some of the behind the scenes knowledge about the gun, I've been up to this point kept fairly in the dark. However, if I'm going to be radically honest with everyone, Tony has fed me a few kind of teasers over the last week when we've been speaking about it over the telephone or social media. So first of all, Tony, can you just talk to me about what the gun is and a little bit about the development of the gun, please?
Sure, Chris. So really what's happened is we started the Delta Wolf, although what appears on the outside is something that happened in 2 years ago. The Delta Wolf probably started closer to 4 years ago with a sideways development of what was then the Mark V rifle, the Red Wolf. And they were looking at ways of going back to our advanced technology for chronographs. And they realized that really there wasn't anywhere to go further than on with the Red Wolf. They could only go back. In other words, they could go back to the MVT of 2007 and bring that to the front again and incorporate that into the Red Wolf. But there were things in those rifles that were at the end of a development cycle. So they wanted to start again. So with a new set of designers, they progressed into a completely new, more modern design. Not to say there's anything wrong with Red Wolf, it's a fantastic rifle, but it is kind of the end of an era on that line of guns. It's the peak of its performance. There are small tweaks that can be done to it, but there's nothing radical without a major change. So that's where Delta Wolf picked up the sort of baton, really. And a lot of time and effort was put into it. And because everything was new, there's an awful lot to go through. I think they spent about a year circling themselves to try and get to the point where they knew exactly what needed to be done and by whom. And then they spent the next year really refining it, getting it working. And then when it was launched, of course, it was absolutely bang on this pandemic we're just coming out of now. You couldn't have planned it worse, to be honest, but it was just one of those things that happened. All key people went home. Designers had to close their offices. We all remember what a mess the world was in back in the early part of 2020. So progress has been a little bit slower, I think, than perhaps everybody wanted. But over the last year, really, the development cycle has accelerated and everything's back on schedule. For that reason, we feel more confident now bringing out a second version of the Delta Wolf, and this is called the Alpha Wolf. And I have one here with me, Chris, if you'd like to see one.
Please, yes. So first of all, Tony, before you show it, I think this is really important to clarify.
Yes.
So tell me then, is the Delta Wolf being replaced by the Alpha Wolf, or are they going to be twins, or how is it going to look in the catalogue? Yeah,
twins or best friends, whichever way you want to look at it. The Delta Wolf is most definitely not going away. It's a rifle in its own right, but the Alpha Wolf is a different style, and when you see it, you'll get to understand that. Because by the time this video is out, people will have seen the Alpha Wolf and they'll understand the styling. So perhaps we need to spend a bit more time explaining the thinking behind why the Alpha Wolf is different to Delta Wolf. Okay, well then first of all, I think this is important because this is literally the first time I will have seen the gun, okay? So I would love to, Tony, please show me the gun. I'll just have to get it.
That's fine, I'm super excited about this. This is so cool.
Okay. So there.
You come back, there you go. Okay, that is killer. So I can see already that there are some wow. Okay. Cool. That looks awesome. So I can see very, very clearly the kind of guns that you've used to inspire this. So there's definitely a strong Delta Wolf vibe.
Well, it really is a Delta Wolf in some new clothes.
Yes.
So what's happened really is that the Delta Wolf has been continued to be developed. And there's a brand new set of self-learning software was released about a month ago for Delta Wolf.
Right.
And that is the heart of this rifle. So it wouldn't be fair to bring this rifle out and leave Delta Wolf behind.
No.
So all the updates for this rifle are available to Delta Wolf owners. And that is why we launched the dongle update, the DT driver, about 2 months ago. So people could get the latest updates, which have been developed for this rifle, into their Delta Wolf.
So can I give you some of my first impressions, Tony, like
Yes.
live on the call, okay? So everyone knows, and I know that you know how much of a fan of Daystate guns I am, right? But like to me, that's infinitely more attractive than the Delta Wolf. I love the look of that, right?
Yes.
That looks so cool. I really like the fact that there's a clear echo as well to your original Red Wolf in terms of the stock.
Yes, and of course that's completely intentional. One of the criticisms of the Delta Wolf, mostly in the UK, I would say, is the look. So it wasn't, the UK's coming to terms with assault rifle looking air guns.
Yes.
But the American market is the other way. The American market really is only interested in black guns. It's not really, if you ever go onto a firearms range in the States, you won't, if you're seeing any wooden stocks, it's on something which is left over from the Second World War. There isn't anything there which has got wood in it. It's all completely plastic, synthetic.
Okay.
And that skeleton modular look is something they really want over there. And the Delta Wolf was deliberately targeted with that look because it was popular in the States.
Yeah.
That sort of gun was selling phenomenally well in the States. Brokaw was doing really well with that style of gun in its commander, and Brokaw needed to follow that stream. But for the UK market and for people who are more used to Daystate look, it jolted. It didn't fit in with what they thought a Daystate should look like. This has been on the cards really right since the start. A wooden stock, that design was made to take this stock from day one.
Okay.
But it wasn't needed at the beginning, and it was felt it would complicate it too much. And besides, there's only so many of us here that could do this development. So it came along second, and now we have the name that we've been keeping back for it, Alpha Wolf, which is a lot of people. Somebody did ask on social media, why have you called it Delta Wolf, not Alpha Wolf? Or, you know, and we're like, oh, quiet, you know, don't go there, you know. But this is what it was designed to be. So it's it runs parallel with it. I think you'll agree it's cosmetically above, in my view.
Yes.
I think in your view too. It fits in as a sort of the offspring of a Delta Wolf and a Red Wolf, isn't it? It's,
so then I think I've got some questions that I think people will want to know, okay? Does this mean that the Red Wolf is leaving the catalogue?
Not at all. No, the Red Wolf is a gun in its own right, completely separate from the Delta and Alpha Wolf line, and it will continue. It's not, there's no development cycle on it at the moment. It's pretty much, it had one, I think the last update was 3 years ago with the GCU 2.0, which brought some new software. So it's probably due some work, but there's nothing going on with it at the moment. It's a steady gun that we just brought back the Midnight stock. That was very popular. That was out of production for about a year.
So that's my gun, and everyone knows how much I love it. So Tony, I've got some questions then for you.
Sure.
Can you talk to me and everyone else about the role you had? Like, it doesn't matter if it's tiny, it doesn't matter if it's big, but I think this is really important for people to know. What sort of things have you done in the development of this gun, and have you had any opportunity to field test it yourself?
So development-wise, very little, to be honest. In the past, back in the early Daystates, I was usually the project manager. However, as time's gone on, really the development team has its own impetus, and I'm not needed in it. So my role is just helpful hints and suggestions, really. Wouldn't it be nice if it had this? I am going to claim the helpful hint on putting the bubble back in, because that was something that I felt we needed with such a high scope. But really everything else is done by the development team downstairs, the engineers, feedback from the Americans who have had a lot to say about this, and our own designer Adriano Nadari, who's really this is 99% his work.
And is he a shooter, Tony?
Yes, he is. He shoots in Italy, and he shoots mostly firearms.
Right.
So that's where his knowledge comes from. But of course, I've been working with Adriano now for probably 13, 14 years.
Okay.
So, and he was a young startup then, and now he's really getting into it. He knows his way around air guns after that length of time in development. So all modern designs are coming from him, and this is absolutely no exception.
And have you used the gun yourself? I think that's a really important.
Yes, I have actually. So with Delta Wolf, really being a Delta Wolf with add-ons, when we launched Delta Wolf, it was still being developed as we were launching it, unfortunately, because of the way it was. And I can remember when we launched Delta Wolf, we did the initial video with everybody not knowing if they breathed on each other, we were all going to die. I mean, it was that early in the pandemic. It was the IWA show had been cancelled. And I remember the IWA show cancelled with journalists having flown into London, about to fly on to Nuremberg, were stuck in London. That's how it happened. And all our development guns were all sitting in a lockup in Nuremberg.
Okay.
So we had to get those back, and we didn't get them back in time for launch day, which we decided to do on the same day as the IWA launch. So we actually did the launch with Matt Manning down in a studio in Bristol with non-working guns, because they were the only guns. There were only 2 chassis in the UK which have been used for development. They didn't have the electronics in them. Those guns were in Germany.
Okay.
So we had to. It was a make do and mend, really. It's a typical British thing, is, do you cancel it, do you stop, or do you just carry on and pretend it's all working?
You keep going, man. That's what you.
So that's what happened on that. So the launch of that gun, it's winter, it's COVID. We've got guns scattered all over the world. We've got people disappearing off on furlough schemes.
Yeah.
I was the very first person to be sent home here because I had a cold on the week it kicked in, and they took my temperature and said, we really prefer if you weren't here. They were actually putting notices on the door, do not enter, So it was all like that, and it was terrible, really. But now it's a very different world, and we've been shooting Delta Wolves now for 18 months, 2 years, constantly developing them, shot them in competition. So when the Alpha Wolf came along, it was just assembly job and take them out. And really the background work, and hopefully the people who have seen this will have seen some of the work that we've been doing to launch this gun. It's phenomenal, really. But what happened a few weeks ago is I was up at Furnace Mill on a photo shoot, and the young things who were doing all the photographing and jumping around trees and stuff were off in the woods doing all that. And I'm left looking after the gear on the firing line, you see.
Okay.
And I said to Ed, the owner there, would it be all right if I shot at some of your targets? And he said, yes, but not at FAC, because you'll bend them all, Tony, because they were 12. Right. So I took an FAC rated, I suppose, a 60-foot-pound Alpha Wolf, turned it down on the screen so it reached a less damaging velocity, and it immediately put pellet on pellet at 55 yards. And I was there an hour just doing that. In fact, when they came back, we'd run out of air.
So then I think this is going to be really important. Can you comment for me on things like how comfortable were you using the gun? Were you shooting offhand? Were you on a bench? Were you using
I was on a bench with a bipod, and I also had sandbags there and a bench rest. But I also shot it standing and kneeling, just to get a feel from it. It's a very comfortable gun. It's neutrally balanced compared to a Red Wolf, which is a bit more. Most target rifles, you want front end weight. You want it to be muzzle heavy. This is more neutral, but it's not like a Pulsar, which had a back end balance. A lot of bullpup assault rifles, have a back end balance because that's where the working parts and 30 rounds of ammunition is. So on most assault rifles, which are bullpup, and I shot a few of them, they tend to be very back end heavy. The bullpups, for instance, the Pulsar was like that, as was the Renegade. This is much more neutral. It's not a light rifle. It feels like kind of reassuringly heavy. It's kind of over 3 kilos, which isn't that much for an air gun, 3.4.
Okay.
And you feel it, but it's over the whole length of the rifle, which makes it very easy to hold aim and fire.
So one of the things that I prefer on the Delta Wolf setup is the location of the cocking arm, and I'm very pleased to see that.
Yes, it's exactly the same, because it really is the same. It's got the longer lever, which the later Delta Wolves have got to help speed loading.
Yeah.
This one has the magazine. It's all been cleared downstairs, don't worry. And the idea is the magazine stops it on the last round.
Yes.
And you can just...
Sorry, everyone. There was a technical difficulty there. Tony and I were discussing the cocking arm of the Alpha Wolf. And Tony, please continue, sir. I didn't mean for that to happen. I apologise.
That's okay. So the cocking arm is identical to a Delta Wolf, as is most of the gun, of course. It's really the main difference is the enhanced software, which, as I said, is also available to Delta Wolf owners as an upgrade. So there's an awful lot of work gone into that. That's where most of the work has gone. New algorithms, new self-learning systems. So I'm very pleased electrical engineers came gushing out with work they've done in this gun. When I converted the power from, I think it was touching 1,000 feet per second down to 800, the first shot was 795.
Okay.
Which left me speechless, because I've been working with these guns for years, and normally the learning cycle is, it takes a bit to get itself. So obviously the mapping was so precise that it was within 5 feet per second when it was dropped down, and then it refined itself over that even further. And this is a high power FAC gun being asked to do this. So that's electronics. The cocking lead is exactly the same as Delta Wolf. It takes 3 minutes to convert it to the other side if you prefer left-hand cocking. Cool. It's just a matter of undoing a screw in a plate, turning it over. So it's got all that. High power ones have a regulator adjustment knob on the front, which is again common to the latter Delta Wolves. It's got a new top rail, a new what we call an optic rail. That's now been scooped like a Pulsar, but of course is Picatinny rather than 1112 as on the Pulsar, and has a cant. It has a 3-degree tilt angle on it as well to help the scope.
So I'm sure that, okay, I'll speak for me rather than putting words in other people's mouth, but it's really cool to see sort of aspects from previous guns.
Yes.
Like, even if it's something like that. So like the Pulsar was a very important gun in my development, let's put it that way.
Yes.
And to see parts of it on your more modern guns is so cool.
One of the things that really comes up is that because the PCP is so easy and so recoilless, people think that if you put the crosshair on the target and you pull the trigger, and that's where the crosshair was, that's naturally where the pellet is always going to go. Yep. But there are many things that can happen outside of that simplistic answer. And one of them is cant, and that is that we are shooting the gun from one shoulder or the other, and it's quite natural to tilt the gun slightly to the left or to the right. If you're right-handed, you'll tend to tilt it that way.
Yep.
And the countryside doesn't help you. You've got undulating ground, trees at an angle, 2 legs, or one height than the other. So it's very easy to shoot the gun at a slight angle. And you might, if you don't know, you might answer that question, well, so what? After all, if you are doing indoor map shooting, the guns are deliberately canted to get them at the angle to be comfortable for the shooter. But an indoor map shooter is shooting at one range. Mm-hmm. When you're shooting an air gun at multiple ranges, what you get is a thing called crossover. So if the zero with the barrel and the scope like that, I can point it at you because you're hundreds of miles away. If I'm like that, then the pellet is going to go like that, and my 0 point is going to go like that, and at a further range, it will cross over that way. At a closer range, it will cross over that way. And that crossover effect will depend on the range the 0 point, and where the gun is angled. And if you change the angle slightly between different shots and different positions, then your point of impact is going to shift left and right and up and down.
So Tony, can I interject for just a second here? So like I'm no way near as technically experienced as you are. However, from a keen amateur level, I've practiced with this, right? Like ignoring the bubble and then following it, and it makes a massive difference. A huge difference.
So anything we can do to help the shooter not make these mistakes, without a 2-week course on how to shoot the rifle, that is going to help. And so we put a bubble level into the scope rub, because particularly on this style of gun, the scope is quite a way up. So any cant error is going to be accentuated by the height of the scope above the barrel line.
Yep.
You can't put the scope down on the barrel because you can't bend the action head behind it better like you would on a wooden stock. So these things have to be built into the compromise of design. But there's lots of other things we can do. I would say that the lock time on this rifle compared to our own Wolverine, for instance, which is taken to be a phenomenal rifle, it's about 5 times quicker.
Wow.
So it's getting not quite as to rimfire speed, but it's a lot closer than any other air gun that we've built. So again, reducing the lock time, the time it takes between you breaking the trigger and the pellet entering the muzzle. It's not just about the barrel time, it's about the time the action takes to react. And with our electronics trigger system and solenoid, we can bring that quite well down. And again, the lower the lock time, the easier it is to shoot and not snatch off target.
Okay.
Help by an 8-ounce trigger, of course.
So one thing that has been for me revolutionary, right?
Yes.
And I would like for you to comment on this, Tony. And like, this is a divisive topic for some people. The trigger on the Red Wolf is still, and the other electronic guns, is the best trigger I've ever used, yes. Right? And what it's done for me, it's meant that it's reduced the errors that creep in to my shooting. Right now, I still have to get in the right mindset when I'm using it to be very delicate and think about technique. But it's transformed the way I shoot, even to the point, right, when I'm reviewing and demoing other guns that are mechanical or of lesser quality. I'll come right out and say it. It actually takes me 30 shots to get used to using my Red Wolf again, because it's so precise and it's surgical. And for me, that's a good thing. Like, I love it.
Yeah, well, I think on the electronic triggers, the thing between air rifle and rimfire, many years ago, I was a 2.2 rimfire indoor shot. And we would also dabble with indoor rimfire rifles as well as air rifles, which, there was another discipline, which the identical looking Anschutz rifles would do an air rifle version of it. And if you went on to the air rifle side, it would wreck your 2.2 rimfire shooting for about 2 weeks because you'd have to relearn back onto it. And I never really understood that. Why is it that, shooting an air rifle, which you think would just be more practice, actually destroys all your scores in 2.2, and you have to readapt. And it's this lock time game, very different between the two. So anything we can do to make the gun perform more like a firearm, faster lock time. The electronic trigger speeds things up, gives you a very nice match feel to it. Also very safe, because when the safety capture is applied, you're actually removing the trigger from the firing system. Never mind putting a trigger block, switching it off deactivates it. So they are very safe. But the other thing is, of course, having a very light trigger reduces snatch. Again, an untrained shooter who's not done years of practice in indoor match, they have a tendency to pull the rifle to the right if they're right-handed. And a light trigger will reduce that. It's an old gunsmith's trick to tune up a gun by just making the trigger lighter and giving it back to the guy, and his scores go up straight away because he's not snatching the trigger so much. And it takes a few years to work that out. You don't always see it through the magnifying scope. It's something that happens. And again, the Air Wolf, the Red Wolf, the Delta Wolf, and now the Alpha Wolf have all followed along those lines of that design.
So that's super exciting. Okay, so I think that there's 2 more really important questions that I want to ask you, right? Who do you think is the idealized customer? Who do you think is going to enjoy using this gun?
I think we know that about 40% of our buyers are generally shooting in a club environment or that style of shooting. And I think that note was no more sort of displayed really when we brought out the Red Wolf with a red stock. So when we brought the Red Wolf out, we thought 10% of people would want a red stock. It's iconic and it brands the gun, and the name of the gun was after all Red Wolf, so we put a red stock on it.
Yep.
When the pre-orders came in, it was 50% red.
Wow.
So we changed our stock ordering, and a year later, we'd sold 90% in red. And I think it's because it's iconic, because it shows you what it is. I think it's a little bit like ordering a Ferrari. They come in grey, you know. Are you going to order a Ferrari in grey?
No.
No. But you might not order, you know, a Ford in red.
Sure.
You know, or you know, a Peugeot in red. I think they do in red. But it's because it's an iconic colour for this type of machine, and it shows it for what it is. So, and I think that will go to the 40% of our shooters who are looking for that kind of shooting.
Okay. Do you anticipate that people will be using this because it is a luxury, prestigious item, right?
Yes.
So what about, like, in which circumstances will people be using it?
I think it's if you are an air gunner and you enjoy air gunning and you enjoy having fine things. Yes, it's not the cheapest air gun out there by any means, but it's not the price of a car. And it's something which is affordable by ordinary people if they want to afford it. Yes. And I think that is where it's going to go. I think it's for somebody who wants novelty in their life. They want precision. They want beauty. And they know it costs. I mean, everything costs, and we all know this. And we all know that we can buy a cheap car, an expensive car, and they'll all do the same thing on the motorway. And you hear lots of people reminding you that daily. But it doesn't stop people wanting better things. And this is what I think it is. This is the best that we can do. And I humbly think it's the best that anybody can do, because I think the amount of technology and work that's gone into this puts it right at the top of the pile.
So that's no small feat. If you're saying that this can eclipse my favorite gun in the world, which is the Red Wolf, I can't wait to try this, Tony. Like I think it's going to be super fun, and like stylistically too. I think you nailed it.
Right.
I
hope you have, and I hope that people will see the work that's gone into it. You know, the money and development costs and time that everybody's put into this gun is huge. And I don't know how a gun like this can be a commercial success, because it's labour of love. It's designed to be, you know, I'm not saying it's like the Bugattis, you know, where they lost $1 million on each car, but I'm saying that it is right at the top of the tree. It's as good as we can get it, and it's got as much technology as we can safely put into it, and everything that you need is in this rifle. So I hope people who buy it enjoy it, and those who don't buy it enjoy reading about it and enjoy, you know, the development that we've gone into to produce a rifle that self-corrects, that has a chronograph, that has multiple setting options where you can select your own pellets, where you can even put your own map into it, and you don't need to be you know, I could have done those things 20 years ago, but I need a degree in engineering, you know, and you certainly needed to be an airgun tuner. You can do that in this gun just by following the instructions.
So speaking of this, does the introduction of this gun as what I'm assuming is the top of the tree that Daystate are offering right now, does it affect any of the I'll cut straight to the point here, the prices of any of your other guns?
Well, we've had to take a long, hard look at that, particularly in the year where gas prices, fuel charges are hitting everybody.
Yep.
And you've got to be careful that you don't start looking like a bunch of elite snobs. Now, I don't think I am, and I don't think anybody else here is either. But how would anybody know that? So we've looked at the costing of this gun, and we've decided to pitch this gun at exactly the same price as the Delta Wolf.
Damn. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So if you bought a Delta Wolf last year, this is exactly the same price in all markets. That has been a very conscious decision to do that in this year, 2022, with everything going on. To match that, we've dropped the price of the Delta Wolf as well, so that it's in balance to it.
Okay.
Now, I can almost hear now people who've bought a Delta Wolf recently saying, this is unfair, I supported Daystate and I paid that. So to try and, it's difficult to do something about that because, this is a conscious, it's easy to put prices up and to take them down, I can assure you. But dropping a price, we've offered a conversion kit for a Delta Wolf to Alpha Wolf at half price. So for £300, an existing Delta Wolf owner can go onto the web store today and buy a stock, a intermount, a cheek riser, and the dongle to upgrade the electronics for £300 if they already have a Delta Wolf.
Right. That is extremely important, Tony. And I'm not going to use an expletive here because this is going out. I'm so pleased that you're offering that, right? I think that is super clever. And I think that what you've done is you've appeased everyone in being able to do that.
We won't, but we've made an effort towards it. And, I get it. If I had saved up for months and, to get £2,500 to buy a Delta Wolf, and perhaps weeks later, somebody brings out another version and I'm left with the older rifle, and I'm a loyal Daystate supporter, I might be feeling like, what are you going to do for me? So we've done something for you. We've allowed you to upgrade to the, I don't know if upgrade is the right word, but it's a word that you can put the Alpha Wolf parts on if you desire to your existing rifle, so you don't have to trade in. You can bring it up to Alpha specification at really well below what it's cost us.
Yeah, I don't think at all. Like I'm not gonna. But £300 is a lot of money. But I think from what you're getting from, I know the Delta Wolf very well, right? To be able to get those changes, that's really clever. So I think people are going to appreciate that. The final thing that I just want to talk about in this interview, Tony, is well, first of all, before we finished, like I've got to say, recorded, I'm very grateful for everything that you and Daystate have done for me and the shooting community in at large. Okay, like I wouldn't be here talking to you today if it wasn't for what you guys have done. So thank you. And the other people that I want to thank is my friends at Crackshot as well, because if it wasn't for Eric and James taking a chance on me making videos for them, I wouldn't be doing this either. Can you talk at all about the relationship you have with Crackshot and where it might be going in the future, possibly? I know this wasn't planned in the interview. I apologise, but I just feel it's important to ask.
Well, Crackshot is a fantastic shop. Their enthusiasm for air guns and our product is there for everybody to see. They wear, as they say, their heart on their sleeves, and they put a lot of effort into their shop, and they're approachable and kind people. So it's very easy to support and get involved with people like that, isn't it? So we are providing, they've ordered Alpha Wolves for the launch day, and you will be there, I hope, on the day to help them with the launch, and they will have product in stock. Because the other thing we've done with Alpha Wolf is Delta Wolf, because of the way that the world was, we announced it, and then it was hurry up and wait for the product to arrive in the shops, and they arrived piecemeal. These rifles are already being shipped, so there will be not enough of them, I hope, but there's going to be, they are already on overseas shipments, and they are already in some shops. So you will be able to buy one. You might have to search around a bit, or they may be gone by now. But we've managed to do that. So we've done it right. We're launching a product that is available.
Yes.
Not available sometime. I mean, I can remember launches in the past that was a year calendar year. I remember poor old Webley with their Eclipse. I remember that one, the gun that everybody should have, they announced, and everybody could get it one calendar year later. So you've got to be careful. It's very easy to do that. It's really easy, particularly in small scale manufacture. But we have got this gun completely tested, completely ironed out, and in the shops.
I think that is a wonderful place to finish this interview. I mean, like I've certainly learned a lot more about the gun. The conversion kit add-on was a complete surprise, and I think a really clever one. And I know that because I've spoken to James about this, he's really excited, and. Thank you so much for letting us be.
Pleasure. Love to see you again, Chris.
To be involved with this. So I'm just going to stop the recording there. Yep. If anyone had any questions, Tony, I know that they can contact Crackshot. I would imagine that the other place to look would be Daystate Online and the Facebook pages.
Yes, we monitor Daystate, myself and Max, who's really doing the social media with me. We monitor most of the Daystate and Brocock and MTC groups. We try to step in where questions have been asked where they're not being answered by the admins already on there, and we feed information to the admins as well. So we're in the background of just about all of these groups, providing help where we need to. So we do that as well, and of course you can email. One of the questions that comes up is, why don't we answer the phones? Well, there's just not enough of us in this modern day of free phone calls and everybody having a mobile in their pocket. You have to do your work, and you just cannot spend all day chatting to people one after the other. And the answer to that is, but only I want to speak to you. But of course, there's many thousands of people who would do that. So we do it by email. If they email Daystate, they will office@daystate.com. Mm-hmm. It will be filtered out to the right person, and they will get a reply. Allow us 24 hours.
Yep.
Try not to ask the same question in 15 different places, so that we don't have to try and collate the same answer, because it might be done by 2 or 3 different people. And we want to make sure that, because there usually is more than one answer to a question.
Yep.
And we will reply. And if we need to, we'll ring you back if you've given us the phone number, if it's needed. But we do make an effort, a real effort, to give customer service, but we just can't do it over the phone. It's not possible.
Yes. Well, I think that is a wonderful place to leave this. Tony, we'll talk after I stop the recording in a minute, but thank you very much. You absolutely killed it on that interview. I'll see you in a second.
See you in a bit. Thanks, Chris. Bye, everybody.